Hi guys, welcome to another Winged Wednesday. I know I promised to bring you my January very delayed anticipated books and my wrap up, but I lied. Okay, but it's not as bad. I was making the list, and the problem with making these videos later is that you keep finding out more and more books that were released. So my list got quite big, and what I've done is I separated in two. Today I'll bring to you the books that I was anticipating but already have read. So this will be my January wrap up. So moving forward with my wrap ups, I think what I'll do is mention the books that were published a month before that I have read and give you my opinion. So if it interested you, you can judge how to prioritize them because there's so many good books coming. But other than that, I might also mention my 3 favorite reads in total for the month, because what's the point of not talking about books you love? Yep. Am I right? Am I right? I don't even know how to start. You know, I don't do wrap-ups, so just bear with me-ish. And I will come back on Friday with the January anticipated books that I haven't quite yet read to add more to your TBR, because why not? I mean, gotta hate me, right? These are in no particular order of enjoyment. I don't think they're far ahead, but I will be talking about books by genre. The Ex-Husband by Karen Hamilton. I was looking forward to this book because it mentioned, so in this book, our main protagonist is Charlotte. She is a former con artist. She has a very dark past, and something happened, and she decided to give up on that life, and she's moving forward. However, her ex-husband, who was also her partner in crime, goes missing and leaves her a very cryptic message, which leads her to try to find out what happened to him. And she goes back to her old ways, but not necessarily to be conning people out of it, but she lies her way into being the personal assistant to this very wealthy person that runs a luxury cruise line. And we go from there. I haven't set on overall rating yet. I haven't written my review, but I would say that for enjoyment, unfortunately, I'm giving this a 6 out of 10, so a 3. Only, I really liked the character. It is character driven. No, I lie, I didn't. I liked the way the characters were written, but I couldn't care for them at all. It's really hard to read a book and recommend it when you don't connect with the main protagonist. I loved the action scenes when we get into the background of, you know, her being a con artist, and the luxury cruise is so well described that even for me that can't picture things in my head, I was really like into the world. I wish I could go to a luxury cruise and, you know, live the high life. So I enjoyed, it was entertaining, but it didn't jive with me. I think that if you liked The Last Thing He Told Me by Laura Dave, which a lot of people did, you're gonna love this book. Next, we have what I believe would be one of my favorite books of the year. It is definitely one of my favorite recent reads, Greenwich Park by Kathleen Faulkner. Let me just start off by saying this book came out in England last year. It's been a year, and then we got this, but I don't get it because they spent a whole year changing a few things. Guys, if you live in North America like I do, please, 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 don't demand publishers to translate a book from English just so you get the references. It leaves us waiting too long for things that are amazing. But I digress. What is Greenwich Park about? Let me read you the blurb. Helen has it all. Daniel is the perfect husband. Rory is the perfect brother. Serena is the perfect sister-in-law. And Rachel is a perfect nightmare. So we have Helen, who's pregnant. She has struggled with infertility. She's finally carrying a pregnancy, and it seems like this one will be finally her one rainbow baby. Her sister-in-law is also pregnant, and they got pregnant around the same time. And they were supposed to take these antenatal classes together. Serena bailed and went to a different one. When Helen got there, she met this girl, Rachel, who doesn't have her shit together at all. And she starts seeing Rachel wherever she goes until something else happens, and Rachel is just so into her life. You don't know what's going on, but the girl looks like a psycho. She's a pregnant woman that drinks, smokes, doesn't care about anything, and is gonna be a solo mom, okay? So as Rachel gets in the way of Helen's life, for better and for worse, we get to know the relationships between Helen, her siblings, and their partners and friends. And it goes back to 10 years before, when they were all in university together. We follow quite a few points of view. We have Helen, Serena, we have two mysterious point of view, and we have Katie, who is Charlie's former girlfriend, and she's a journalist who's now covering a case of rape. So there are some trigger warnings. Nothing goes into much details. It is handled very well, but this read almost like a literary, contemporary character study, but very intriguing, mysterious. It reminded me a lot of Lisa Jewell, in the way that you care so much for the characters, and when you're reading this, you just want to hold the book with so much care because you know you're reading something special. It is such a slow burner, but compulsory at the same time. I cannot describe it. I was addicted to it. I kept reading page after page, and it's almost like when the point of view changes, the whole mood and atmosphere changes effortlessly. It was a fantastic read. It was very psychological. There is a mystery that you want to find out what's going on, but more than that, you care about the characters. You don't want to find out what is going on because you're an armchair detective. It's like you know these people and you need them to be okay. And you need some of them not to be okay because you really just like them too. So in here, I care generally for some characters, and I absolutely despise others. And you know me, every time I love characters, and every time I care for these characters so much, it's going to be one of my favorite books. Greenwich Park, you're probably going to hear me talk about this more. Next, we have The Guest Room by Rona Halsall. I gave this an overall rating of 4.07 stars with an enjoyment rate of 3.5. The Guest Room and Greenwich Park, I first read them as an ARC that I got through an Galley. I'm very thankful to the publishers, and I loved Greenwich Park so much that I bought it, of course. You saw that. But The Guest Room would follow Steph. She lived her whole life serving her family. So when her 30-year marriage falls apart, she really has a hard time finding her groove and figuring out her space in the world as a single person and as herself, not part of an ensemble, family. So she's struggling. She's also struggling financially. It doesn't help that her husband has moved on. And she decides that she's going to take on a lodger. She's going to take on this lodger because then she can make ends meet and dedicate herself to her work. But that's not the only reason she's getting the lodger. She's also getting the lodger because strange things are happening around the house. She's finding like windows open that she knows she closed, noises outside in the middle of the night. So she figures, if I can get money to keep me afloat and someone else here that can either protect me or be the first one to be killed and I have time to run. I don't know what she was thinking. But, the lodger was like a really reasonable idea. Once the lodger comes in, everything changes. She gets in, her daughter doesn't really like what she's doing, but she is determined to keep her independence, and weird things continue to happen. What do I think about this book? I did enjoy it. I was deeply committed to finding out what was going to happen to Steph, but it is a bit of a slow burner in the sense that it took so long to know the characters that I thought the action was never come, but it finally did. And once the book picked up, it was amazing. And the one thing that I like the most, especially with this kind of book, it can go wrong and unfair really fast, and it didn't. This is a very well plotted book. There's foreshadowing throughout, all the crumbs are there, and it was very fairly concocted, if that makes a chance, and a change. And this means a lot to me. So I do recommend. Next, I have The Overnight Guest by Heather Goodenkoff. I gave it a total rating of 4.07 stars and an enjoyment rating of 3. Let me start off by saying that I will read more books by this author because I don't feel that my opinion right now is fair. I do feel that marketing did it a disservice. The way that it was marketed, at least the way I understood the marketing, was that this was a isolated setting, closed circuit book, and it wasn't. And because of this, it took me so long to get over my expectation to the point of adjusting it that I can never get fully into it. But what is this book about? We follow, main characters. We follow Wiley. She's a true crime writer. She rents, I believe, this farmhouse in the middle of nowhere in the middle of the winter because she needs to get in the right mind space to write books, and that's what she's doing. But then, one day, out of the middle of nowhere, in the middle of a snowstorm, she finds a child right outside. And things get creepy from there. With this, we get an alternate point of view that happened in the past, and it happens to be a crime. So We don't know if that's the crime that she's writing and is alternating, but we have the crime in the past and then this mystery in the present. So here's the thing. I picked up this book and I prioritized it because of the isolated setting. That's not true. Most of the action happened in the past when it was not winter. They weren't isolated. People came and went, and the police was trying to solve the crime, and you got a broad change. So it was like, let's say, open world. If you play Zelda, you know what I'm going to say. So the main part of the action happened in the open world, and I thought I was going to get a temple with this book. No. The temple part, which is the present part, is very, very small. So that was the biggest bummer that kept me from enjoying this book more. Now, for the positive things. I really loved the character work. I loved the way it was plotted. I loved how both timelines intersected enough that I will pick up another book from this author without reading the synopsis. I think this is the way to go. But let me adjust your expectations. If you're a fan of fictional, true crime, this book is for you. I love the true crime aspect. I love the real life investigation. I love the behind the scenes of having a writer mentioning it or her point of view. So coming to this thinking this is a non-isolated true crime, fictional mystery, and you probably gonna enjoy it way more than I did. Next, I have a book that I also got in from the publisher through NetGalley. Last Seen Alive by Joanna Schaffhausen is the 5th Ellery Hathaway mystery in the series. So far I have only read one, and then this one. I need to read all the ones in the middle, which I definitely will. I gave it an enjoyment rating of 4.5 stars and an overall rating of 4.57. I don't want to get too much into this because I don't want to give spoilers because it's the 5th in the series. Let's just say that in the first book, we get to meet Ellery. We get to meet Ellery and Reed Markham, an FBI agent. And we know that in Ellery's past, even though she's not a police officer, there is a serial killer who's now in jail, Coben. She was the one surviving victim of his. In this one, Coben comes all high and mighty and say, I know you know I've killed more people than you found. If you want to know what the bodies are, how about you bring Ellery here? I'll let you know the location of my other victims if she's here and I can see her face to face. Not a good idea. But they accept it. Around the same time, a copycat starts striking. And yes, we go from there. It's a game of cat and mouse, and it was so good. One thing I'll say is that reading this book, it does not give any plot spoilers from the previous books, which I truly appreciate. It reads very much so like a standalone. But if you are completely against spoilers, remember, this is the 5th book in a series, so it gives character development spoilers because now you're meeting them. And they've had 5 books to establish a relationship and their personality and relationship with you, the reader. So take that into consideration. I recommend the whole series. I mean, because I love the first book, I love this one, and when you get to this point, But I would say that is so fast-paced, so enthralling, so amazing. The characters are very well developed. And I don't know what it is, but Schaffhausen narrative really connects with me. So I recommend this one. Next, I have Reckless Girls by Rachel Hawkins. I first read it as an ARC as well. I don't know what to say about this. Closed circle, isolated setting, strong female characters. Yes, please. Soap opera, popcorn, don't take yourself seriously, disclaimer. In Reckless Girl, we follow a group of 4 people. Basically, let's just jump into it, that go to an isolated island for fun. It's a uncharted island. They hear about it. They just want to go in there, spend a week, come back. When they get there, they meet a couple that was already there, and we go from there. Here's the thing though. If you expect to take this book serious, like serious literature, you're not going to enjoy it. But now, if you want to grab your popcorn, feed your llama drama, and read something that is fast-paced, crazy out there, but completely entertaining, I recommend Reckless Girl. I gave it a 5-star overall rating for enjoyment. It has its flaws, of course, but man, I just love the cattiness. Like, I was so happy reading this book. I just can't explain it. Rachel Hawkins does have this ability to just entertain you. So reading this book, I was entertained. I was happy. It did what it was supposed to do, in my opinion. Next, I have The Maid by Nita Prose. I gave this book a 4-star for enjoyment. But let me take a moment to flex, okay? I first read it as an e-arc as well that I got through NetGalley. I guess January was a good month. But I bought the copy. And I need to flex because look at this. Look at my copy. Are you ready for this? Are you ready for this? Oh, there's more. So this is the naked cover. And then the first page. Like with the moment I saw this edition, I needed to have it. Especially because the North American cover bothers me. Let me put it here for a second. Do you see what I see? This, like, I don't even know where to put it, but look at the bottom. So in The Maid, we follow Molly, the maid. She's neurodiverse. And she works at this grand hotel called Regency Grand Hotel. It's a very luxurious hotel. She used to live with her gran, who has recently passed away. And she doesn't really know how to navigate life. She is very black and white. And she doesn't read nuances or sarcasm. She takes everything at face value. And she's very socially awkward. And her grandma would be the one kind of guiding her. And now she doesn't know how to do this. But she's great at her job. And she follows the motto of the hotel, which is she makes sure that every time she enters a room, she reinstates it to a state of perfection. And customer service is her jam. Then one day she goes to clean her room and there's a guy who's dead. She calls a cop, but somehow they think that she might be responsible for his death, and then we follow from there. I loved Molly. She's one of those characters that pop from the page. I cared for her so dearly. I wanted to protect her through the whole book. I was screaming at her. I wanted to just jump into the sea of ink and paper and rescue her because she's too naive for this world. There were times where I was crying for her. And again, I cared so deeply. The mystery was very well plotted and very light. I think this is the closest to a cozy mystery I read in a very, very long time. It's not quite Hallmarky because it's more elevated than that, but it's in the ballpark of cozy mysteries. There is a nice group of characters, for better or worse, that, you know, makes me think, I hope this becomes a series because I need more of Molly. And there's some satellite characters that are very well developed, and some were not. If you're looking for one of the most enduring characters you ever see, perfect characterization, and a very light, well-plotted mystery, The Maid is for you. I hope it gets all the love it deserves. Next, another E arc, Flicker in the Dark by Stacey Willingham. I gave this a 4-star for enjoyment. And we follow Chloe. Chloe is a psychologist in New Orleans. She's engaged to be married. Her life should be going places, but her past still haunts her. When she was around 12, her dear dad was arrested. He was caught as a serial killer. Okay, so she has lived with that stigma for her whole life to the point that she can't quite walk away from it. She is a brilliant psychologist, but she's also addicted to some substances, you know, that she prescribes to herself under someone else's name, but this isn't neither here nor there. Things are going well. It looks like she's finally ready to move on, and then some young girls start dying around her area. Young girls that have at some point or another come through or connected with Chloe, and the MO of those killings are pretty close to her dad's, to the point that it makes you wonder, is this a copycat? Or was her dad innocent all along? So this is the basic premise of A Flicker in the Dark. It is a debut novel. I really liked it. The book did play fair. I'm one of those people that read things trying to figure out the clues. So was I able to see the plot twist or the reveal? Yes. But this doesn't bother me because I gave myself a pat on the back. And it shows me that the author played fair. So for me, when I read a mystery, I'm more into the atmosphere and connecting with the characters, and this definitely deliver that. And I think what kept me from enjoying it more is that it wasn't a consistent read. There were parts that were a little rocky. I was more invested in some parts than others, and the way that the author tried to create doubt in the reader's mind wasn't very well executed at times. But I really recommend this book. It deserves the hype. Holy moly. Now I have 3 horrors. All of them I also first read as an ebook, and I'm gonna try to speed up because see guys, this is why I do not do wrap-ups. Like, can you imagine if I was here talking about all the books I read in January? You would hate me. But I'll try to speed up. Road of Bones by Christopher Golden. 3.5 enjoyment, overall rating of 3.64. The cover is gorgeous, gorgeous. I will be buying the book for the cover alone, but did I enjoy it? Not as much as I wanted. We follow Teague. Teague is a docu-producer. He's looking for his next green pilot gold that he can sell to anyone. And he decides to go to Siberia, where they have the Road of Bones, which is a massive Russian highway that the Gulag prisoners helped put together in the middle of the winter, and they died because of the weather conditions and were just left there to rot on Earth. And this got going. It's super long, and Teague thinks it's going to be an amazing idea to do a road trip through this Road of Bones and stop at all the villages around the way and get people to talk about the folklore and the myths and, you know, the scary things that happen around there. That's his idea. He convinces one of his friends to go with him, and then he has the help of a local person to be their guide. They're gonna start it in Akust. That'll be their starting point. They get in there, they are ready to talk to the villagers. Only they find a ghost town with a very scared, catatonic little girl. As soon as they spot her, then they see this really unreal pack of wolves that behave like humans, and they are going to try to attack them. They run into the car and they start chasing, and they chase after them. Sounds amazing, right? Let me start off by saying the atmosphere, the action was amazing. I really loved the mythology. These are creatures that I had never heard before, and I want to read more from. This put the bug in my ear. I want to read more folk horror this year. It is my jam. It's something that I just found out I really enjoy. The only thing that kept me from liking this book more is that I couldn't connect to the characters or the narrative. The writing style just did not work for me. We have different points of view, and I like when the transition is just seamless and it makes sense, but it was very clunky. Every time the POV changed, I was lost. I didn't know who was talking, why was that pertinent to the story. It took me right out my zone, and I don't like books that do that. When I read a book, I like to be immersed in the world, and this, every time a POV changed, which is basically every chapter, I was being taken out of it and I had to go back in. But that's a me problem, is not a book problem. It was very atmospheric, and I really enjoyed it otherwise. I liked the story. I just wish it had been delivered differently, if that makes sense. But I still recommend this book, and I'll be buying it because of the cover. The next January release I was looking forward to and have read is Such a Pretty Smile by Christy DeMeester. 5 stars for enjoyment. We have 2 points of view, mom and daughter, Lila and Caroline. They struggle to communicate. They both have their ghosts and things they hide. And in the present point of view, which is Lila's, we meet the Cur, which was also a serial killer from Caroline's past. So he keeps coming back. I don't know how to describe the book other than to say, I think you should read it. It is haunting, beautiful, entertaining as heck on face value, but on top of it all is a big FU to patriarchy. Is a highly feminist book, and it's It has some of the best things. We get an unreliable character. We have a strong social message. We have strong, powerful women. We have a mysterious serial killer that can be supernatural, but we don't know. We have the mystery underneath. There's gore. There's atmosphere. And there's a beautiful prose. Like, it's one of those books like House of Hollow from last year. I can't explain, but I just love it. It's hard to put my coherent thoughts together when I'm talking about it. The last horror book I read was a short story collection by V. Castro, Mestiza Blood. I gave it 4 for enjoyment, 4.43. Overall rating is a short story collection focused on the Latinx cultural experiences in the United States. It has 14 different stories, and they all, and I would say there's like a story for everybody, because some of the stories are folkish. There's some erotica. There's some highly gruesome. There, like, literally there's something for everyone. This took me by surprise. I loved it really. Like, it was my first Castro read. I still want to read Goddess of Filth, but God, I was punched in the gut. I did not expect this language, this gore. She goes places that made me uncomfortable, but the overall social message and the characters were just amazing. This is an author to look for, and if you love short story collections, I highly recommend this one, and it's an own voice book, so why not? Woo! Getting there, guys. Now I have 4 books to tell you about that. I would say they weren't January releases, but they were my favorite January read. I want to mention They Never Learn. You can check it here. I reviewed it. Amazing, amazing. One of my favorite books. Adore the characters. I'm not going to repeat my review. Next, I have All of Us Villains by Amanda Foody and Christine Lynn Herman. 5 stars for enjoyment, 4.79 stars overall. And basically, we follow this group of 7 teenagers who are part of this generation. So they live in this world where the magic has dried up, but someone found out the fountain is still alive. But these 7 families keep it, you know, a secret from all the peasants. So they hold a secret championship every, what kind of moon? Every blood moon, which is every 20 years, every generation. Each family chooses a champion that will compete in this tournament to the death. Only one survives, and the one survival is the one that will guard that magic fountain for the next generation, and again, keep a secret of the peasants. And then this year, a tell-all book comes around exposing these 7 families and what's going on. So now this tournament is of, you know, public interest. They have to come out and be upfront about it. Everybody wants to watch and what's going to happen here. And it's a freaking crazy stories. It's a YA book, but I'm so invested. It has magic and fantasy in a new world. And oh, it fed my soul. There's a sequel coming out in December, and I cannot wait to keep reading. All of Us Villains, please, please pick it up. Let's hype it up, because I need this to be a movie series. Because, you know, as I mentioned before, I can't picture things in my mind. I connect with it on an emotional level as if I'm there. So it's basically, I can picture things through sensation. I can't explain it, but I need to see it with my eyeballs, because my mind doesn't do that for me. It needs to be a movie So good, so good. I'm so happy I read All of Us Villains. Next, I have two horrors. Dear Laura, it's a novella by Gemma Moore. In it, we follow Laura when the day before her 13th birthday, her sweetheart, best friend, was kidnapped, never found. She received a letter saying, you know, dear Laura, and this letter requests something of hers in exchange for more information about what happened to her friend and, you know, guarantee that he'll be alive. And every year she gets a letter, a follow-up letter on her birthday. So this is her connection with her pen pal, which is a serial killer. And of course, she can't go to the cops or anything, so she carries that with herself. I think this was such a wonderful book. It's a novella, you can read it in one sitting, but it was like so powerful. It's so easy to invest in. I really adored Dear Laura. The last horror that I have is Stolen Tongues by Felix Blackwell. I feel that there has been some hype around this book and some mixed review. In it, we follow Felix and his fiancée. They go to this cabin to celebrate their engagement. And then they hear voices outside. And in her sleep, she starts talking to these creatures. And then it follows them and it goes from there. I loved it. I loved it. It scared the hell out of me. Now I know exactly what kind of creature I'm scared of. Is this humanoid creature that comes at night. It has no form and it haunts you and it taunts you and it mimics humans in the most grotesque way. That's the shit that scares me. And this book did that. Not only that, but Fave's experience rang so true. I have sleep paralysis. I see things. I used to speak on my sleep. You can watch this video right here from my 13 Nights of Halloween to get more into the things. But everything she was going through, I either go through or have gone through in my life. I completely felt it. There was something that was visceral to me. And I think that really served as one of those selling points for me to love it and enjoy it so much. There's a lot of things that could be improved on this book, of course. But I think on a personal level, definitely it was one of my favorite reads. And I'll be seeking more for Felix Blackwell. And definitely, I want to read more books with creatures like these. The books that I can think about, The Watcher, the Mayfair Witches trilogy. If you know books like those, please, please, oh, and The Patient, of course. If you can recommend me books like these, please let me know, because I want to be scared this year. I want to be more scared. Well, this was freaking long. I am so sorry. But, you know, you want to wrap up, so this is what you get. I'll try to be more succinct on my next one, especially because I won't have read as many February books, because I plan on posting it the first week of February, of March. So there's hope. I'll come back on Friday with some more January releases that I'm looking forward to reading but didn't quite get to yet. And that's it, guys. Until next time, be the hummingbird. See you Friday.